Somehow it is the last week of this Sword and Shield Prismatic Draft League regular season. However it turns out, it's been a lot of fun, but how it turns out is still to be determined. It's unclear whether the Toronto Rockslide will keep playing after this week or not. Usually I skip the standings update if it's not completely ready by Monday, but I am making an exception this time because there's a lot to see in the playoff picture that's specific to this team. So let's take a look right now. The Toronto Rockslide are currently tied for the very last playoff spot with the Elegancy. If the playoffs started right now, only one of us would get in, and I don't know how that would be determined. As always, in this table that I make myself, it's just in alphabetical order. That said, that tie could very easily be broken before Week 8 is even officially played, because at time of recording, Lunala Plaza and the Alaskan Absols have, as far as I know, not played their Week 7 set. That's why they have fewer games played in this table than everyone else. And as you can see, Lunala Plaza is one win behind us with the same differential. So if that set is played, and if they beat the Alaskan Absols, they immediately pass us and the Elegancy, and we actually start this week outside a playoff spot. Unclear at time of recording whether that will happen. Even if it doesn't happen, not exactly a comfy position. But wait, there's more. This week's opponent is the cooler Dreamyard Darkrais. So if they beat us this week, they get in ahead of us. It might still be possible to lose this and make the playoffs. I think it's extremely unlikely. But like maybe if the Dreamyard Darkrais take a bad loss, it could happen. But most likely, this is just a must-win matchup this week. And while I don't actually normally think all that much about differential while I'm playing, I mean, that's probably come across, differential might well matter too, because if I win this in 3 games, but the Elegancy win their set in 2 games, and the Darkrais don't implode this week, winning might still not be enough to make the playoffs. And again, all of that is not even accounting for the possibility that Lunala Plaza belatedly wins Week 7 against the Absols, in which case making the playoffs is an uphill battle anyway. So currently in a tie for the very last playoff spot, lots of possible rivals jockeying for position, and one of them is this week's opponent. And before we get to the matchup, the cooler Dreamyard Darkrais have made a trade at the deadline. Trade deadline is passed, but they got one in under the wire. So let's take a look. They dropped Absol and picked up Cottony. Once again, there's actually a fair bit going on here. As far as dropping Absol goes, I don't think they're all that bothered about that. For all that I talked about their Perish Trap options and Absol giving them some more physical offense, it seems pretty clear based on what they've said in the Discord. The cooler Dreamyard Darkrais have been trying to kind of play the villain ever since they joined the league, and I think picking up Absol was just an honestly pretty weak attempt to troll the Alaskan Absols. I don't think it accomplished much. I don't know why it would when the Absols had ample opportunity to pick up Absol themselves and they didn't do it. But they've played their regular season set now. The bid is over, and Absol is gone. As for why they picked Cottony up, well, honestly, I think they might think it learns Tailwind. It's a really easy mistake to make. Whimsicott learns Tailwind, Cottony does not. I kind of hope that's part of it. But, of course, Cottony does get a lot of the rest of Whimsicott's support kit, including Cotton Spore, so it still has a way to deliver some speed control, and also just being frustrating to play against with other Prankster-boosted moves. What I do know for sure is that the night of the trade deadline, so at the very end of Week 7, the cooler Dreamyard Darkrais were active in the Discord looking for some kind of Regieleki counter that they could still pick up within the trade rules of this league, which are restricted not only by the rules around the free agent spots, but also there's a limit on how many free agent swaps you can make. I don't think it's ever come up before, so I've never talked about it before, but they were up against that limit. But they were looking for something to counter Regieleki because they thought, and I agree, that Regieleki is very good into their team. And fortunately, this in the end was, I guess, the best trade they could come up with. I mean, Cottony is an electric resist, but it's not very bulky or anything. My best guess is it's a speed control bot. Maybe it has like Encore, but Encore is not as good this gen because I can Dynamax the Regieleki, and I actually have a lot of incentive to do that anyway. We'll talk about that in a moment. But whatever exactly they're going for, that's what they were talking about on the night of the trade deadline, and this is the move that they ended up making. The matchup now looks like this. The cooler Dreamyard Darkrais, formerly the grounded punching bags, but you would not know it with how drastically this roster has changed. They have Darkrai, Spectrier, regular base form Calyrex, Azumarill, Scrafty, Cradily, Sigilyph, Cottony, Kangaskhan, Wigglytuff, and Gothitelle. Most of what we've seen from them since the coaching change is, well, early on they had Sigilyph setting Gravity so that Darkrai could more reliably land its Dark Voids. They actually have not been doing that as much recently. They kind of established it early on and then have been bluffing it in other weeks with an all-out offensive Darkrai, sometimes Dynamaxing early in recent matchups. Spectre has been a just monstrously strong special attacker. It's also faster than a fair bit of my team, and of course my team is faster than almost all of my team, with the obvious exceptions of the two fastest Pokemon in the league, Regieleki and Ninjask, which is saying something because my team is built in large part on attacking Pokemon with high base speeds and complementary coverage. Spectre makes the high base speeds part a bit more difficult, and we've seen it get set up. Have we seen it behind screens? I feel like we must have at some point, although I don't remember what the screen setter was. But we've seen it set up with Nasty Plot and get Grimnay boost, and we've seen it Dynamax when Darkrai doesn't, and just go nuts. For physical offense, Kangaskhan actually is a huge part of this team. It has one of the most threatening fake-outs in the game, and that can create openings for Darkrai and Spectre to get set up and run away with the game. They can run Belly Drum Azumarill. I've never really seen them try Azumarill as a Belly Drum sweeper, but they do have the option. I have seen them set up Belly Drum with Azumarill, and then what's the move? Power Swap the boosts onto Calyrex and go crazy with +6 Calyrex, firing off physical attacks. I don't know if we'll see that this time, but it's an option they have. They have a Perish Trap mode still. Either Azumarill or Wigglytuff can click Perish Song, and they can use Gothitelle to trap targets on the field, so they can play that sort of slower Controlier game plan, or they can go offensive with Spectrier, or they can spam status with Darkrai. Number of different ways they can play. All that with Scrafty as a solid support Pokemon with Intimidate and Fake Out and whatnot, giving them also double Fake Out with Kangaskhan. Cottony as Prankster support. Wigglytuff as a strong Fairy type, as well as being able to set the Perish Song if they want. And I haven't talked about a Pokemon that we haven't seen much of, but I think will probably show up this week, Cradily. Everybody's bringing out the Water-type immunities against my Blastoise. Cradily gets Storm Drain. It's also an Electric Resist. And I think it's very, very likely that it shows up this week, along with who knows what else, but good chance we see Darkrai, Spectrier, Kangaskhan. That's my guess. Those four Pokemon, Cradily, Darkrai, Spectrier, Kangaskhan, and then whatever supports my opponent thinks are most appropriate for the matchup. That's a little bit harder to predict. Like I said, I think Regieleki goes crazy here. My opponent does have now 3 Electric Resists, because they've added a third Grass type in Cottony, although Cottony is not very bulky. But the biggest thing Regieleki does is it has the highest base speed in the matchup. Again, it has the highest base speed in the entire league. And it can make me not afraid of Dark Void, because it gets the move Electric Terrain, or it can Dynamax and click Max Lightning and set up Electric Terrain. Either way, all grounded Pokemon on my team, which is everything but Ninjask, are unable to fall asleep once the terrain is up. So we're starting with Regieleki. Life Orb for maximum damage output when Dynamaxed. I could run like a choice item, but then I never want to click Electric Terrain. And also, the choice item doesn't work when it's Dynamaxed. I think I probably Dynamax Regieleki in at least game 1. And the Life Orb damage boost does still apply under Dynamax, so I think that's just straight better here for a few different reasons. Max attack, it actually doesn't need any speed investment at all to creep their fastest Pokemon with which is Spectrier. I might be just overwhelmed with recency bias right now, because I have decided to creep Choice Scarf Kangaskhan after they ran that last week. I don't know why they would run it back to back, but given that my team is built on being naturally fast, it actually seems kind of reasonable. I can even see Scarf Spectre, honestly, but that's not so easy to creep. So I did decide to go ahead and creep Scarf Kangaskhan. I still have max attack on the Alecki. I have an HP number that ends in 9. I don't actually know if that matters when it's Dynamaxed, but it's not going to be Dynamaxed all the time, but that's optimal with the Life Orb. And then I just dumped the rest in Special Defense because my opponent's team is mostly strong on the special attacking side, and then Defense to avoid wasting EVs. You should always invest in an odd number of stats. I've gone with Physical Alecki over Special, mainly because my opponent just has a little bit more Special bulk across their team. And I could see them, because I've run Special Regieleki most weeks, although I did run a Physical one once before, I could see them trying a little bit harder to shore up that special bulk and take special hits from not just Lecky, but also Blastoise, which I've also run special pretty much every week. So I think physical Lecky might have a little bit more surprise value, and either way hits a little bit harder into their team. And it also gives me access to Bounce, which gives me something to hit Calyrex, Cottony, even Credily for neutral damage. And also gives me, given that I probably will Dynamax Lecky in at least one game, gives me access to Max Airstream for the team. Like I said, Electric Terrain, so that I don't have to Dynamax to set up the terrain effect Electric Terrain to prevent Darkrai from putting things to sleep. And one thing I've tried to be intentional about after I got completely burned by Trick Room last week is having some more Protects on my team, at least this week. My opponent does have Trick Room options. Gothitelle gets Trick Room. I think Calyrex probably does as well, although I haven't actually checked. I've just assumed it so far. They probably won't run Trick Room because Darkrai and Spectrier are very fast and are their main offensive pieces, but they could with like a slow Azumarill or something. So I want at least a little bit more capacity to stall things out. I've been intentional, like I said, about getting more Protects onto the team this week. Reggie-Alecki's partner in crime this week is Weavile. I think Reggie-Alecki Weavile is very likely the game 1 lead. This helps to cover for the Trick Room stuff because Max Lightning plus Triple Axle, as long as Triple Axle doesn't have a terrible miss, which is always... Well, you know, there's always a bit of a gamble there, but if it works out, it should be able to shut down any kind of Trick Room setter. Otherwise, Weavile and Reggie-Alecki together can offensively pressure pretty much anything my opponent throws at me. Like I said, all of their electric resists are grass types. So Weavile having that super effective Triple Axle to click into any of those grass types is pretty valuable, especially since Triple Axle hitting more than once can KO Cottony through a Focus Sash. Weavile has the same base speed as Darkrai, so I decided to go just full max speed. This ties max speed Darkrai. It is still slower than Spectrier unless they run Modest for some reason, but otherwise it's equal or faster than anything on their team. I did run some calcs with Adamant, and I wasn't really noticing a significant difference in the things I was checking for, so I think that's reasonable. That said, I also have a powerful Ice Shard to hit Spectrier or to guarantee a first hit into Darkrai should the situation arise where I need it. I've never Melt Ice because the Life Orb is on Reggie-Alecki. Never Melt Ice, probably the next best thing I've got to make that Ice Shard and that Triple Axle hit as hard as possible. And then I don't feel like I need a Dark Stab this week, so instead I have Poison Jab so that I have something to hit Azumarill, which of course resists both the Weavile stabs, and then Protect. Pretty straightforward. This is probably the game 1 lead, like I said, and it probably Dynamax Reggie-Alecki, although I'll adjust to the situation in front of me. Blastoise is here, not scared off by the Credily. It's Weakness Policy Blastoise again. I didn't really see much point in speed investment on this thing, so it's just the familiar max special attack, lots of HP, with the leftover EVs in special defense for reasons already discussed. No ice coverage this time. Honestly, ice versus steel coverage doesn't make a huge difference in this matchup, and I could think about Blizzard just for the higher base power, which turns into a stronger max Hailstorm. But Flash Cannon also hits Credily super effectively, and it gives me a neutral hit into Azumarill, which again, resists both water and ice. The more I talk it through, the more I think Azumarill might be fairly likely to show up, because it is weak to Reggie-Alecki, but it's strong into a few of my other notable Pokemon. It's just Weakness Policy Blastoise. I'm thinking probably fast offensive mode with Reggie-Alecki Weavile in Game 1, so I have this available as a switch up in Game 2, and hopefully it can tank some hits and run away with the game, especially if I get the Weakness Policy activated. I get big damage out of Blastoise. There's not a whole lot more to say about it. How do I activate the Weakness Policy? I think you know the answer already. It's Ninjask with Absorb again. I actually thought after I generated the paste to set it to minimum special attack, so the special attack IV is 0, but it doesn't show up here. It's not important enough to really be worth changing the image. This Ninjask is speed creeping Spectrier. It has speed boost, so even if there's like a Scarf Kangaskhan or something, or Scarf Spectrier even, I can get faster than that after one turn. At max attack, Ninjask doesn't hit very hard, but for what it's worth, it's there. Dual Wing Beat, I like mainly, again, to take out Cottony through a Focus Sash. It does also give me a max Airstream on Ninjask, although I think it's really not likely that I Dynamax it this time. You never know, it has happened before. Skitter Smack is my best attack into things like, well, mainly Calyrex and Gothitelle, but it's also super effective into Darkrai, so it's one of my best attacks into that, and it also is resisted by Spectre, but at least lowers its special attack. Probably not very useful, but maybe at some point it is, but it does hit enough things hard on their team that I think it's worth bringing. Side Absorb, just hit the Blastoise. Focus Sash, so Ninjask can take a hit. The other reason I have a lot of Protects on my team is not just Trick Room, but also the Fake Out pressure from the Kangaskhan and potentially the Scrafty. So If I see Kangaskhan lead, say in game 2 when I've led Ninjask Blastoise, which I think is likely, I can protect both Pokemon, get around the fake out. Ninjask doesn't have its Focus Sash broken. Mainly it's here to activate the weakness policy on Blastoise, but it can also hit something like Darkrai reasonably hard. So again, I think the main mode for game 1 focuses on Weavile and Regieleki, and the main mode for game 2 focuses on Blastoise and Ninjask, unless I decide to change something during the set, but that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm still a little bit afraid of Credilli, because it can do a little bit more than I'd like to shut down Regieleki and Blastoise. Weavile does give me offensive coverage into it, but I think I could use a bit more. Maybe even something that can switch in. So Choice Scarf Mienshao is here once again. This, I believe, also speed creeps Scarf Kangaskhan. I really might have tunnel visioned into Kangaskhan too much, but it so happens that Adamant Mienshao with 252 speed is 1 point faster than max speed Kangaskhan. And on this set, I might as well run it like this, right? I even have max attack. I have inner focus, so this can't be flinched. Not having protect, not an issue in that regard. It also can't be intimidated by Scrafty. Close combat, I want to hit Credilli as hard as possible if I need it to create openings for Blastoise and Regieleki. And then the rest is basically for coverage. Poison Jab hits Azumarill again. Knockoff hits... Take your pick. Spectrier, Calyrex, Gothitelle. And then U-Turn also hits some of those Pokemon hard and gives me a way to pivot out. I was thinking about running Acrobatics just for max Airstream, but I think it's unlikely that I Dynamax this. And U-Turn pivoting might be a little bit more valuable, but we'll see. I probably only bring this to a game if I see Credilli, but I probably will see Credilli, and also maybe I'll see something else that surprises me, like a Scarf Kangaskhan that makes me want to have that close combat available. Obviously, it's a little risky to click when they have so many Ghost and Psychic types, but that just means I have to play well. And the last Pokemon I really wasn't feeling that strongly about this week. It was kind of hard to find a 6th Pokemon that I felt good about, actually. Usually, if I'm bringing like a Regieleki Weavile mode, I have Zygarde for the complementary ground coverage. But I really don't think Zygarde does all that much in this matchup. And it being slower than Darkrai and Spectre is a little bit awkward. So for the first time all season, I am not bringing Zygarde. I thought about somebody else. Oh, Alchemy, because it gets Sweet Veil to keep its teammates awake in front of Darkrai. But I couldn't think of anything else to do with Alchemy in this matchup. Even Calm Mind doesn't feel very good because Spectre can outpace it with Nasty Plot. And so can Darkrai, although Darkrai's weak to Fairy. I also have Electric Terrain as a way to keep my Pokemon awake. So I'm going with Togepi. I am, again, kind of afraid of Trick Room after getting absolutely blown out by it in the first game last week. But Togepi doesn't even need min speed to underspeed my opponent's whole team. I didn't even bother. Their slowest Pokemon is Credilli. This is slower than that. Togepi, of course, gives me Follow Me, so I can buy an extra turn for a Regieleki or Weavile or something to attack. Helping Hand to boost damage, and then I also have the After You available so that if my opponent does set up Trick Room, Togepi is the slowest Pokemon in the matchup, can enable Regieleki, Weavile, Blastoise, Mienshao, take your pick, any one of its teammates to go before an opposing Pokemon does, even though they're engineered to be fast. I mean, After You and Trick Room, pretty straightforward. And then I have Dazzling Gleam because I want to have an attack on it. I have Super Luck because that's the only ability that's of any use with this set. And I've just loaded up on Special Bulk because I actually did run some calcs into Kangaskhan. This almost certainly takes a double edge. If Kangaskhan is max attack choice band, it's a 50% chance to KO. Otherwise, we take it. And my opponent overall has more special offense, so I think the Special Bulk is more valuable. Togepi is probably just an anti-Trick Room piece. I probably don't bring it if I don't see Trick Room, but... Again, for the trouble I had finding any 6th Pokemon that I was comfortable with in this matchup, I think that's good enough to justify bringing it. Overall, I think it's probably Regieleki Weavile lead game 1. I think it's probably Blastoise Ninjask lead in game 2. Mienshao mixed in is needed. And whatever happens, happens. Our season is on the line here. A loss almost certainly means we're out. A win, good chance of making the playoffs, but still not guaranteed. All we can do is cut to the games and see what happens. Okay, and this is it. Season on the line, more or less. Good luck, have fun. Against the villain of the... well, most of the season, I think, at this point. They have brought the Cottony, whatever it is they're planning to do with it. Am I about to be Obi-Wan? I don't know what that means. I think maybe they're Darth Vader in this analogy. They brought the Cottony, Darkrais, Spectrier, Gothitelle. None of that surprising. They brought Scrafty, which is a little bit unfortunate for my physical Regieleki. They do have Intimidate available. And of course they brought the Kangaskhan. Yeah, I don't love to see the Scrafty right now, but nonetheless, I'm going to do Weavile, Regieleki lead. And then I think I bring Mienshao. I can close combat this. I can knock off this. I do have to be a bit careful. Probably best to preserve it for the late game. But let's do that. And even though I don't have the Ninjask, I'm thinking about bringing Blastoise. Actually, I think it's better to bring Ninjask without Blastoise than Blastoise without Ninjask. I can Skitter Smack, dual Wing Beat, chip with dual Wing Beat, or weaken with Skitter Smack. Ninjask is of course not very strong, but we'll give it a go. Okay, they lead Darkrai and Gothitelle right off the bat. Does Gothitelle get Gravity? Well, even if it does, I'm just going to fake... I think it gets Fake Out this generation. I'm just going to protect around the Fake Out pressure this turn and scout what they do. And I can max Lightning next turn, most likely. We'll see if they make a switch. We'll see if Cottony comes in. And oh, Cottony actually could be really unpleasant to deal with right now. I think what I least want to see right now is Cottony switching in this turn. Actually, either of the other Fake Out users could also be unpleasant to see switching in. Again, I'm very willing, though, to Dynamax... Yes, like that one. I'm very willing to Dynamax Regieleki this game. I did just let it get intimidated, though. It's Trick Room. Imagine that. They did bring Trick Room. Okay, I think I want to switch Regieleki out. I can go Ninjask. That's the best Pokemon to just sacrifice this game. I get rid of the Intimidate on Aleki. I save my Dynamax for now. Weavile -1 attack is not amazing, but I think damage into Gothitelle is nice to get, so I'll just go for Triple Axle. They might just KO Weavile. Right? Because I have that fighting type on the field. I could switch both of my Pokemon, but I probably want to preserve Mienshao for the late game if I can. I can Ice Shard. I can fish for a double Protect. Let's go Ninjask in the Weavile slot. Oh, I'm trapped. I forgot. I can't do any of that switching. Looks like yeah, my opponent's trying to talk trash in the chat again. It does look bad. This position does not look good for me. No argument there. I'm going to Triple Axle and Max Lightning and hope for the best. I don't like that it's -1 Regieleki, but yeah, they did trap me. Okay, they get close combat into Weavile. It doesn't really get to do anything. They have an Eject Pack on the Scrafty. They'll be able to get another Intimidate. And it's actually really rough that I used my Dynamax here. I don't think that was the right idea. Oh, I crit the Gothitelle. It's carrying a Focus Sash, of all things. I can go Ninjask here and protect it. It's extremely vulnerable after this turn, but... you know, that's the beginning of something, I guess. I do just want to knock out the Gothitelle if I can, I think. Although maybe it's more worthwhile when I only have 2 max moves left to get the damage into Kangaskhan. I'll attack Kangaskhan this turn. They also could switch the Gothitelle or something. They Dynamax Kangaskhan. Oh no, what's it gonna be? Max Strike takes out Aleki. This draft has been kind of fun, but I definitely built a team... drafted a team, I should say. It's been a problem all season. That was just way too weak to Trick Room, huh? And another opponent exploits it. Funny thing is, one of my first ideas in the draft was to make a hard Trick Room team like some other people did, and I think that would have been quite a bit better, actually. Okay, rough loss in Game 1. I can think about being more aggressive in Game 2, right? One way that I have to deny Trick Room is... because Gothitelle is probably the only setter. I guess Cottony could be a setter as well. One way I have to deny Trick Room is to just hit the target crazy hard. They brought a bunch of Fake Out pressure, though, with the Gothitelle, so it's easier said than done. But if it's just Darkrai Gothitelle again, I can just Dynamax turn 1. I think I bring Blastoise to this one. I think I go Blastoise, Ninjask. If they don't Fake Out Ninjask, I can even get my weakness policy. I'll bring Togepi so I can play in Trick Room if I need to, or just give some redirection support to Blastoise beyond that. And then Mienshao is still alright, but I think with the season on the line, I might prefer Regieleki here, so I'll bring that. Mienshao is a little bit tricky because it has good moves to click into everything here, but some of its moves are really bad into some of these things. Okay, Cottony. Cottony can set Trick Room, but we know that it doesn't have the Focus Sash. So I'm actually just going to go straight for a Max Steel Spike into it, and Side Absorb. It is Cotton Spore, not Trick Room. Okay. They land Dark Void into both targets with no gravity. That's terrible for me. And this is why I was leading Regieleki as well, because I could get the Electric Terrain turn 1, but not this time. Okay, well the Cottony is definitely not going to set Trick Room now, so let's just go for G-Max Cannonade and Side Absorb again. If my Pokemon can wake up, that would be good. Switcheroo, Eject Button. Ninjask stays asleep. Blastoise is forced out. I don't get to do anything with my Gigantamax in this game. I'll go Regieleki. Max Ooze too, so it gets a special attack boost. I can at least take that away. Probably should have gone Togepi actually. Let's just Skitter Smack and Protect. There's the Cotton Spore again. Ninjask goes back down to -2 speed after getting some boosts. Lucky still takes so much. Ninjask finally wakes up. The Skitter Smack doesn't do very much damage though. I'll go Togepi here. And see if I can get rid of this Cottony. If they'll let me. Yeah, this was a fun team that I drafted, but I think we're finding out here that it's just had too many exploitable weaknesses. But not giving up just yet. Togepi takes the Max Darkness pretty nicely. And we do knock out the Cottony. Yeah. Weakness Policy Cottony is crazy. I don't know what they were cooking with that. We stall out their Dynamax, but they got rid of mine. I mean, we still have a game here in this game right now. I'm actually just going to Dazzling Gleam here, and I'll protect Ninjask. That gets it around Fake Out, and it also gives it a chance to get a speed boost. Dark Void will put Togepi to sleep. They haven't missed a single time in this game. They knock out Togepi anyway. I can get Aleki back in here, or I can go Blastoise. What is my speed right now? Probably slower than Darkrai. Okay, Aleki it is. Just Wild Charge. And look for some damage on Kangaskhan. This is a little bit stronger than Skitter Smack. We take out the Darkrai. But Aleki takes a lot of damage back, and they can just double edge it now, can't they? And they do. And what's left? Ninjask finally gets rid of the speed drops. Blastoise is still asleep. I'll be honest, I didn't remember that. Blastoise will also be the slowest Pokemon on the field. And Kangaskhan is out of range of Dual Wing Beat. I think the only thing I can do here is activate my weakness policy, wake Blastoise up, land Muddy Water. So that's what I'll go for. For better or for worse. I don't have the weakness policy anymore, I forgot. They tricked it away. Blastoise stayed asleep anyway. Well, that's probably the whole season. We end on 3 consecutive 0-2 losses. After a really promising win over the East Coast Esper that had me thinking the season was turning around. It is now, I think, probably impossible to make playoffs. Bare minimum, it's almost impossible. 3-5 record. Pretty bad differential in the end, after it was pretty good most of the way. This draft was just, I mean, in the end, I didn't know what I was doing in a Sword and Shield draft, and this draft, though a lot of fun, had way too many structural flaws, especially the really bad Trick Room weakness that opponents exploited in both of the last 2 weeks. I kind of hope we play a Sword and Shield draft again sometime, because I feel like I could draft better now, having experienced a season of draft league play in this generation. I think I could come up with something better than what I had here, but yeah, it's a disappointing end. But it's been, yeah, I'll get the replays. It's a disappointing end, especially after winning the championship last season. I think it's my first time missing the playoffs since season 4, but it's been a really fun season all the way around in the PDL. A lot of competition, a lot of crazy techs, a lot of very interesting Pokemon that we haven't seen lately playing Scarlet and Violet. I don't know what Season 10 will be like. I bet it's going to be nuts, and I'll try to bring my A game for that one. But if that is the end of the Toronto Rock Slide run this time, it's been a blast, and I hope it's been fun to watch. And we'll just have to see who does manage to put everything together and go all the way from here. Oh, and Cottonee had a weakness policy because it took it from my Blastoise. Don't know how I didn't put that one together. Maybe not quite firing on all cylinders late in this season. Well, anyway.